Welcome. Just who will win the 2021 Snooker Masters? The Masters is of course only one of the three majors in snooker, but this Triple Crown event stands out to many of the top players as the exclusive jewel in the crown. And for those players who love a numpty,
I do love a numpty.
I'm afraid there's no numpties here. This is the very best of the best. The top 16 players in the world. It's a tournament that really brings out the best in these players. You enter the tournament only 4 wins away from history, and that creates an intensity that snooker fans like me love. It is the first tournament of the calendar year, and all these players would bloody love it if they won it. So, the big question is, who do I fancy to win this year? As there's only 16 players, let's go through them all. I'll give you a prediction on their finishes. So, let's start off with Stuart Bingham, Bull Run Bingham, who some say lived up to his name in last year's final, when he certainly appeared to get a good run of the balls, much to the joy of everyone who finds pleasure in watching Ali Carter try to hide that look of disgust that he seemed to have perfected over the years. Now, the question is, do I fancy Bingham to defend his title? And the answer is no, I do not. Why? Well, for the same reason I didn't fancy Trump to win the last World Championship. These Triple Crown events are rarely defended in the modern era. True, Ronnie did win the Masters in 2016 and 17, but you have to go all the way back to Paul Hunter in 2001 and 2002 to see someone else do it. It's the same in the other Triple Crown events. Okay, yes, in the UK, Ronnie, the greatest player who ever lived, did it in 2017 and 18, but then you have to go all the way back to 96 and 97 before you see Stephen, the next greatest player who ever lived, Hendry, achieve the same thing. And then obviously in the World Championship you've got Selby in 2016 and 17 and Ronnie doing it in 2012 and 13. But once again you have to go all the way back to the Golden Hendry years to see the last person defend the title when he won it for a 6th time in 96. In short, nowadays it doesn't happen very often. I predict a Bingham quarter-final run out, 30 grand in his pocket. Thanks for having me. Next up, Unno. Well, oh no, is all I can say. I like him. I think he's a good player, and there might be tournaments that I fancy him for when he's in form, but not for this tournament. Sorry, Unno, but time for Tubby bye-bye. I predict a first round exit. Sean Murphy, right, where do you begin? Last year's semi-finalist is struggling. I think it's fair to say by his standards he is struggling. I started off the season with a semi-final run in the European Masters, and you thought, ooh, maybe he's back. But then he's been really struggling to get going in every tournament since. He keeps threatening to have a little swan song with moments of brilliance, but I can't look at his Triple Crown event performances with much more enthusiasm than his current form. Not got out of the first 2 rounds in the last 3 UKs and the last 5 Worlds. But like I said, he did manage to get to the semis last year, and I'm going to put myself out on a limb here. Often, players, when they do well one year in a tournament, get a spring in their step for the same tournament the following year. They think, I was close, I can do it this year. And even though his form is poor, I'm backing him to up his game here. I predict semi-final. Mark Williams, 4 first-round exits in the last 5 Masters. For some reason, this isn't Mark Williams' tournament in recent years. He's a 2-time winner, so he knows what it takes, but only 1 semi-final in the past 17 seasons does not bode well. Some players will lock themselves away over Christmas and practice. Some will enjoy life. Some respond better after preparation. Some respond better after time away. I think a Mark Williams, with little left to prove in the game, is not going to come out of the blocks all guns blazing. I think he rocks up, and 16 grand later, he's back in the car with the best of Badfinger on full blast. I predict first round exit.
Well, I can't forget this evening.
Mark Selby. I fancy him. I really fancy him. If I fancied him anymore, I'd be sending him a box of Thorntons, because he really is in great form. I said to people in the UK, he was my number one pick. I said Robertson was my second. I didn't even pick a third. And I said if Robertson could get past Selby in the quarters, he'd be the man to beat. I said I didn't think Trump would win. I even said that Trump had a bit of a wobble in him in these major events, which was bizarrely accurate. But I'm back here at Triple Crown events, struggling to look past Selby. I think his form is superb, and he is in some ways an underrated player, which seems a bit of a daft thing to say, but there have been years where he clearly should have been favourite to win the Worlds, and he wasn't. I really do think what he's achieved in the game gives him a real claim to the title of best of the rest, when you take away the big three, Ronnie, Hendry, Davis. For me, Selby's name is right in the mix with Higgins and your Reardons and your whoever's. Selby dominated that number one spot for a very long time in the teenies, when there was very fierce competition. He won 3 out of 4 World Championships. He's a top player, and I think he went through a quiet patch, but he might be back. Let's talk major wins from 07-08 season to the 16-17 season. He won 8 out of 30 majors. That's nearly 1 in 3. It was nearly Ronnie's standard. Ronnie only won 1 more with 9 out of 30. He's the real deal, and if he is back, and I think he is, he's winning big events again. I predict winner. Stephen Maguire, great player. I thought he had a good season last season, hit a few runs in a few tournaments, even picked up a couple of titles along the way. But this season, he hasn't shown much form. Didn't qualify for the last tournament, the Grand Prix. Will the bit of extra time away from the table mean he hits the tournament refreshed? Perhaps, but it's hard to back him on this form. I predict a first round exit. Neil Robertson, he was my second pick for the UK, but this tournament, I just think the motivation to perform will be diminished slightly from his Triple Crown win in the UK. There's nothing to prove this season. I think his game will improve closer to the Worlds, but since winning the UK, he's withdrawn from the Scottish Open, lost in the first round of the Grand Prix, and lost in the qualifiers of the German Masters. At the minute, he's not really the thunder from down under that we're used to, more the blunder from down under, if I'm honest, and I predict a first round exit. Yanbing Tao, he's on my watch list. At some point he's going to surprise everyone. I really do think that. 3 seasons ago he nearly became the youngest winner of a ranking event ever when he got to the final of the Northern Ireland Open. He followed that up with a very average season, but he's still consistently qualified for events. Last season was much better. Some semi-final runs and quarters popping up. I think this season we'll start to realise more about this talent. This is his first Masters. I think he'll be up for it. I predict a quarter-final exit. Right, Judd Trump. Now, this is the mad guess. This is purely a hunch. He's playing unreal snooker. He's dominating these ranking events by just steamrolling people. Huge scoring, great safety, the full package. Anyone with any sense is making him favourite to win the tournament. Let's be clear, he is the number 1 player in the world right now. But I think he's going to trip up somewhere in this tournament. I really do. There's Kyron Wilson potentially in the quarters, and even though he's beaten him in the last 3 matches, they're pretty even head-to-head at 11-9 in favour of Trump. So you can well see that being somewhere where Trump might falter. Can he win 4 in a row against someone he's got a pretty even overall score with? I'm not sure. Will he even get to the quarters? I'm not sure. Rather stupidly, I'm not even going quarterfinals for him. I predict a first round exit, and if he wins it, you're welcome to call me a fat idiot. David Gilbert. I like David Gilbert. He can score heavily. His A-game is a dangerous game for any opponent. Even if they're on their A-game, it doesn't matter, because when he's on form, he can seriously compete. He's a top player. I actually met him once at, I think it was a snooker club in Tamworth. I was skiving work, as I recall, so a snooker club out of town is a great place to lay low. His form has been mediocre, but I think he's got a ranking win in him at some point, and these are critical years for him. Let's face it, For some of these fringe players, it's also an amazing opportunity for a payday. One win in this tournament gets you as much money as a final run in a lot of the other tournaments. 2 wins gets you serious prize money at 60 grand. So he'll be up for it. He can score heavily. He got the highest break in last year's tournament with a 144. And I'm putting myself out on a limb here because his first match is trump. But I predict a quarter-final run. John Higgins. He's a multiple winner of this event, but he hasn't won a Triple Crown event in nearly 10 years. I don't think this is the tournament that brings out the best in him. I think, like Williams, he's got nothing left to prove, and I don't know how well he responds to the time off over Xmas. I think at 45, with lots of kids, he probably doesn't lock himself away in the practice room over Christmas. I think he's at his best when he's got time to prepare for tournaments. I don't think the busy schedule brings out the best in him. One of the greats of the game, obviously. But if we look at his past 7 years in Masters, we have quarters, first round, quarters, first round, semis, first round, quarters, and then this year. And I would predict first round. He seems to be a bit hit and miss here. First round exit for John Higgins. Mark Allen, not having the best of seasons, but is winning the Champion of Champions shows that he's still got a great game in him. This tournament is a similar setup to that in the sense that it's full of top players. This is the top 16 in the world. The other one, the Champion of Champions, has all the tournament winners in it, and sometimes a few extras thrown in. So they're similar events in terms of the quality within them. He won this event in 2018, but then followed it up with 2 first-round exits. Will it be 3 first-round exits in a row? I don't think so. I think he'll get the better of Higgins. I predict a quarter-final run and a juicy showdown with O'Sullivan following allegations of bullying last time out. Kyron Wilson is another player I've actually met at a club in Warsaw. He was practicing with Mark Joyce. He's someone who I fancy to win one of these majors one day. I'm looking at the draw and it seems so obvious we'll get another Wilson-Trump meet in the quarters because they just seem to be playing each other all the time. But I think it's time for a little blip in the season for him. These players always blip somewhere, and we can't have yet another Wilson-Trump meet, surely. His form has been tremendously consistent. He's the sort of player who I think if he doesn't come across something special, more often than not, he wins. His game is solid, and you can get very far in tournaments with a solid game. You can win tournaments with a solid game. But I'm looking at the draw, and I think Jack Lekowski will come in strong following his World Grand Prix run. I predict a first-round exit. Jack Lekowski. This is his 3rd Masters in a row. He's never got past the first round. At some point this has got to change. A good run in the World Grand Prix should fill him full of confidence. I don't think he's going to win it, but I think we're going to see some flair and a little run this year. I think we'll come out of this tournament with some of the pundits suggesting that we're beginning to see him live up to the potential that many in the game believe he has. I predict a semi-final run. Ronnie O'Sullivan, the greatest player of all time, had some terrific runs in tournaments lately, not been able to convert them into titles, but the current world champion is always a danger, especially if he gets to the latter stages of tournaments. Now, you arrive at the Masters, only 4 wins from victory. You can already smell blood, and I think this suits him. He missed it last year. I think this will give him a boost of focus this year. I think the tournament is being held at Alexander Palace. I think that will give him a boost as well. He's not like the setup at Milton Keynes. I think we'll see him playing on in frames less as a result, because presumably he'll be able to get more practice time on the tables. I think this will help him keep in his rhythm more, although I think he's purposefully been working on building his stamina in these matches, to be honest. I don't think it's been much about practice, but I think it's been because he's got the Worlds in mind. In fact, I think this whole season is about the World for Ronnie. I think he thinks this is his best chance to get a 7th world title, and I would agree. He's won one or more Triple Crown events each season for the past 9 seasons in a row. That is bonkers. Will he make it 10 in a row? I think he will. Will this be the tournament he does it in? Maybe. But I fancy him more for the Worlds, I really do. I will know more how I feel closer to the time, but everything is being geared towards that for me. Prolonging frames, mentally preparing himself, all the while for longer frames, longer matches, even the little looking at his watch at the end of every frame. It's a sports psychology trick in my opinion. They do similar things in other sports to reset their focus by having things that they do every time. The watch could have stopped for all we know. He's just looking at something that's resetting his focus. I never rule Ronnie O'Sullivan out, but here I predict a final run. Lastly, Ding. Well, I'll be honest, I'm not expecting much. I find his performances quite flat at the minute. Having said that, his win in the 2019 UK Championship showed that he still has the ability to pick up big wins. Ronnie got under his skin a little bit in the build-up to that, which I think brought out the best in him, but I just can't see him doing great here. Look, the three-time UK champion winner and previous master winner will be no pushover. O'Sullivan will have to take him seriously in their first round match, but ultimately, I think he'll have his number. For Ding, I predict a first round exit. Well, that concludes my predictions. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to hear what you think, so comment below. Tell me where you think I'm wrong. Tell me where you think I'm bonkers. Tell me where you think I've got a point. And like the video if you like it, guys. Subscribe, share it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.